and that's the theme of resilience. मजे की बात है, use the word resilience. We actually created a resilience squad 2023 के अंदर. It's a very, very difficult business environment.
So as long as you have a good problem to solve, I never talk about the idea, I never talk about the solution, because the whole idea of falling in love with the solution that you have built, I think that's false. What you need to fall in love with is the problem.
एक ऐसा squad बना था कि अगर मुल्क में पेट्रोल बंद हो गया, फ्यूल खत्म हो गया, how will we maintain continuity of supply?
So I would say अभी food shortages बहुत हो रही हैं, उसमें बहुत potential है. If anyone wants to start their agriculture, is one of those as well. Recognizing those opportunities through those geopolitical issues that are going on, you have to take them as opportunities as well rather than just problems.
Mariam has given us the introduction. Today's talk is on entrepreneurship. A lot of people might call it some buzzword or something, maybe the fad of the decade or something, but the fact remains that entrepreneurship for a lot of developed countries is the lifeblood of the country. I think for a very long time in Pakistan, entrepreneurship was confined to certain families, certain communities. I belong to Karachi. There is a Memon community. There's Punjabi Saudagran, Chinyotis and all. But I think it is becoming far more, I would say, it's becoming very popular now among the young graduates. And I can very confidently say that the top multinationals, the top organizations, the top banks in Pakistan are really finding it tough to attract the best human resource, because the best human resources from places like LUMS, they've got their business plans already. So I've got a very, very distinguished panel here. The good thing is that all three of them are from LUMS. They are your seniors. So big round of applause for them. So we start with the youngest of them, who is Mr. Munir Hasan. All right. So, yeah. Well, hum umar hai na, so we don't want to feel young actually, yeah. So Munir is a part of the Unilever's core team. He is a part of Unilever for the past 20 years. He's heading the customer development business there, जिसको हम आम ज़बान में sales कहते हैं, ऐसे ही है जी. So they found a very fancy word there for that business. He was a part of the marketing team as well. And he has also been a part of various regional roles in Australia, Singapore, Thailand, and Netherlands. And he is a CS major from LUMS, and his hobbies include agriculture and travel. So he is going to tell us about kitchen gardening today, right? All right. So, Munir, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, Adil.
मेरे लेफ्ट पे बैठे हुए हैं जनाब मोहम्मद इस्माइल साहब. So how many of you watch Shark Tank Pakistan? A lot of you. So we have got a Shark Tank celebrity here, right? So Ismail is the co-founder of Saraaf, and Saraaf is a B2B commodity sourcing company from South Asia and Central Asia. And why I'm mentioning about them, I recently got a chance to record a podcast with Ismail and his business partner as well. And they secured a funding of $5.4 million at Shark Tank Pakistan, which is, and the great matter of pride for Pakistan is that this is the largest funding that has happened in the history of Shark Tank franchise all across the world. So many congratulations.
Thank you for the warm welcome as well.
And if this goes through, we are actually sitting with a very rich man. All right, very nice. Challenge, theek. Okay, then we have got another LUMS graduate, I think the youngest of the lot, if I am not mistaken, a senior entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, I must say. Shershah Hasan is the CEO and founder of KalPay. And KalPay is an impact-focused digital financing fintech. He started his first company at the age of 18. All right, ठीक है. जब 18 है तो फिर 8 में भी शुरू कर सकते थे. But what was that business, by the way, Shershah?
It was a marketing agency.
It was a marketing agency. So you had started LUMS when you... Excellent. So during LUMS, he started his first business, and while he was at LUMS, he started KalPay while it works, and he scaled it to the seed stage. And he's, mashallah, one of the members. He was one of the nominees. Kehna chahiye ki he got that recognition from the Forbes magazine as well, in the Forbes 30 under 30 list as well. So, well done, Shershah. Chalo ji. When I was at IBA, छोटा सा इंस्टीट्यूट कराची में, so हम वहाँ पे मैनेजमेंट जब हमें पढ़ाते थे मुनीर, so उसमें एक टर्मिनोलॉजी मैंने सीखी थी. It was called entrepreneur. I mean, entrepreneur was the turn of the century, became the buzzword. बल्कि उस जमाने में, believe it or not, हमारे IBA में कोर्स entrepreneurship नहीं होता था, it was called small business management. उस जमाने में turn of the century it became entrepreneurship, but we learned a terminology called intrapreneurship. That means entrepreneurship within the organization. So would you like to share maybe you have experience of 20 years of working for Unilever? How does this terminology entrepreneurship manifest within your organization, Unilever Pakistan? Munir.
Sure, Adil. Thank you. Thank you for the warm intro. Thank you, everyone. Great to be here. I think my journey started in this room, professional journey, 20 years ago. There was, I think, a LUMS campus drive conducted by Unilever. And it's so good to actually come back and be with this crowd. I feel a lot older, but hopefully a little bit wiser. I think I was introduced by somebody called Sarmad. उसने कहा मैं 2026 के program से हूँ, तो I felt like a dinosaur. But nonetheless, I think I'll take the hot, questions that are coming in. Yeah, I think, Adil, to your question, fundamentally the way I look at it, I think what does an entrepreneur do? And I think we've got two great entrepreneurs sitting on the right and the left, and I am the odd man out. It's about finding a problem and solving for it and being able to monetize it along the way. And I think the way we operate in Unilever, I think that's exactly the ethos that I think every employee lives by. We problem dhoondni hai and try and figure out what the solution is. I think the interesting part in my 20-year journey in Unilever is that every time we found that the best solutions to those problems, they don't come top down, but they come bottom up. Yeah. And there's a lot of freedom to be able to come up with your own solutions. And maybe if I could share a couple of examples,
sure,
if that's
absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
I think about 8 years ago, I think हमारी team में एक territory manager था. It's basically a junior position within the sales ecosystem, and he had a problem. And the problem statement was that I think at his distribution, जो sales people, जो salesman है, जो दुकान पे जाता है, there was 40% attrition. लोग नहीं रुक रहे थे. 16,000 रुपए तनख्वाह थी. Anytime they'd get 1,000 rupee increase, they'd jump ship. And that's not good for business. Anybody will tell you 40%, you can't run a business that way. And I think the creativity in him, I think, led him to actually find a solution to the problem. कि यार health insurance start करते हैं अपनी team के लिए, अपने core distributor के लिए. Program start हुआ, attrition खत्म हो गई, business went sky high. And I think we in the management picked up, this is something interesting happening. I think ये गुजरात में pioneer हुआ था. And we thought, okay, I think let's try and scale this, I think, solution across our entire 5,000 field force across Pakistan. And lo and behold, I think since then we haven't looked back. And I think the lives of countless people were changed because of that one territory manager on ground. And would you believe it, it didn't stop there. Right now, you will struggle to find a company in Pakistan that doesn't provide health insurance or education insurance to their field force because it became the new norm. And they didn't want to lose people. So I think that's just one example in terms of how we want to live the spirit within a company to be able to flex your entrepreneurship muscle. Problem ढूंढना है, solution लेकर आना है, and if it's a good enough solution, it will scale and it will travel.
All right, that is absolutely. I think my last job was at TCS and I was heading the retail business there. And this health insurance part, guys, कहने को शायद आप लोग को उसकी value समझ में ना आए, but for somebody sitting at that counter at a TCS shop, this really matters a lot. And somebody who's earning 16,000 rupees, उसकी पूरी जिंदगी की savings एक बीमारी में जो है वो निकल जाती है. And this health insurance is such a beautiful thing. So, जो हमने सीखा मुनीर के इस जवाब से, that whether you are within an organization or outside an organization, it's all about finding the needs, the opportunities, and doing the action around it. Shershah, I come to you. So, हमने entrepreneurship की definition यही हमेशा सुनी है, if we find certain niche in the market or something which is missing out in the market, and he comes up with a viable solution and all. So, at the age 18, how did you find this need in the market? You want to do whatever you wanted to do. What was the process that you went through? I mean, because 18 years, people are not even serious about life, and you started your own business. So how did you find that opportunity out there?
Thank you so much for the introduction. I think in hindsight, I took life too seriously. अब मैं सबको कहता हूँ, don't do it.
Okay.
Especially when you're at LUMS, don't venture into these businesses because these 4 years, you never get these back. Uske baad, like we see some dinosaurs next to me. Just kidding. Like for the next 40, 50 years, you have to work, right? Till you're like 65, 70. So why waste these 4 years when you can spend this time with your friends, enjoy all the events, etc. So KalPay actually started when I was 22. So I was 18 when I started my first business. At 20, I started my second one. Then COVID came and I closed both of them down. And then KalPay was actually a project that I was doing at LUMS. So this was my final semester. It was a Fintech course. This was a project that I did for that course. And that's where this idea came about. Now, in terms of why I did this, I think from a very young age, I wanted to be independent. There's nothing, like you said, there's nothing better than owning your own business. The core reason for that is because the independence that you get, right? You're your own boss. It has a lot of responsibilities, yes, but at the same time, the kind of freedom that you get, that's unmatchable, and you don't generally get that at a job. So I think for me, that financial independence or that financial freedom from a very young age, that was important. I think after 18, I've never been dependent on my parents for my own expenses. They've given me a home. They feed me food, that's good enough. But apart from that, I've tried to self-sustain.
So from what age, sorry?
18.
So you paid your own LUMS fee as well?
Not that.
All right.
Yeah, I'm grateful for them for
I
paying
was
that.
just checking.
Yeah, no. I wish I did that.
Oh, I wish. No, but you would ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती है यार.
बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती
ठीक है, that's fine.
ज़रूरत नहीं है
अब्बू ने किसके लिए कमाया? अब्बू ने मेरे लिए तो कमाया है. ठीक है, चलें.
Yeah, so benefit from the culture that you're in. Yeah. If I was in the US, probably the things would have been different. So that's how this started. There's this need inside me that I have to do something of my own, because when I was graduating from LUMS, Unilever came in, RB came in, all of these different brands used to come in, all of these consultancies, they used to come in, and I used to see my friends around me going crazy after those. I never attended, I think, any single session at all.
You missed out, bro, but anyhow.
आप हंसते थे उन लोगों पे जो बाहर निकल रहे हैं. वो देखो मुस्तकबिल के गुलाम बाहर निकल रहे हैं. मैं सेठ खड़ा हूँ. But Shershah, see, coming back to my question was, अब जैसे KalPay था, जैसे कि आपका मैं इंट्रोडक्शन पढ़ रहा था, so it's an impact focused digital financing fintech, and that's a pretty long introduction for a company, but I'm pretty sure it's with a little exposure toward fintech myself, what you're doing is something pretty amazing. ये चीज कहाँ से जहन में आई? ये नीश कहाँ से आइडेंटिफाई की?
देखें, to be very frank, I can sugarcoat this और बहुत मैं fancy उसमें कर सकता हूँ. This was at that time in 2020, buy now pay laters or similar companies like ours, they were doing really good globally. The biggest fintech globally in Europe at that time was a buy now pay later, and that's where the idea came from. क्योंकि पाकिस्तान में जो issue था, जो challenge था, you talked about finding a problem, right? He talked about finding a problem. The core problem that still exists is consumers don't get access to financing. And I always quote an example of a food panda rider. We don't probably see it that way, but most of these food panda riders, they're earning north of 100,000 rupees, more than most of the fresh graduates they would make. So the top tier food panda riders, they end up making around 200,000 rupees a month. But the issue is no bank is ever willing to give them a loan for education, for their basic necessities. And that's where the gap is. That's what we wanted to fill. So the reason we call ourselves an impact-focused digital lending entity is because our products like education financing, our products like productive asset financing. So we have been working with Foodpanda, Kareem, and Indra for the past 2-3 years. Almost every rider in this city have used our service to get a smartphone on installments from us, because for them, getting a smartphone is a productive asset and they can't work without that. So the idea was that this is a huge problem in Pakistan. If you look at global numbers, we rank at the bottom 5. So that's what we wanted to solve through our services.
So was it one of the Foodpanda delivery from where you got this idea?
Generally, so Foodpanda is just one use case that we have. Students don't have access to financing. Women don't have access to financing. My mother at this age can qualify for a credit card. And that's a big gap in the market that we see. So it was consumers primarily. Early stage professionals, young graduates, they don't get access to credit from banks. So this is like, we're talking about tens of millions of Pakistanis that don't have access to basic financial services.
Absolutely. And it's honestly, it's a life changer for a lot of these people. I mean, finding a better mobile phone, so many things we take for granted. Unke liye, this is the lifeline. However, being a product head of a credit card, popular credit card product, I will recommend you guys to stay away from credit card. All right, it's a very bad thing.
Not from KalPay, right?
बहुत खतरनाक चीज है भाई credit card. But बहरहाल चलें जी. Ismail साहब, अब जरा बताइए, Mr. Shark Tank, अब जरा बताएं कि यार, this is starting a business, especially a B2B business like you guys are doing, Saraaf. You can search on Saraaf. It's there on LinkedIn and all. It's a very interesting business. They source commodities from Central Asia and South Asia and all. Tell us about those specific problems. So these future entrepreneurs, mashallah, in these beautiful hoodies, YLES, you call it, what do you call it? LES. What is the Y then?
That's our
Why the Y?
YLES is our signature event hosted by LES.
All right, okay. So these LES guys, full of wonderful ideas and all. So yes, I think entrepreneurship एक बार चल जाती है तो बड़ा जबरदस्त लगता है यार, बंदा छा गया, यही तो बनना है हमें. But there are certain issues, भैया, इतना आसान नहीं है पाकिस्तान में धंधा करना, ठीक है? So tell us, I mean, tell these young people about some of the problems and issues that you face in starting off your own business.
So first of all, I'd just like to say I was a part of LES as well.
All right.
But I didn't leave it in 1 year. So.
But did you have the same hoodie? These?
No, I didn't make it that far. I just stayed for 1
Oh, I think we all should get a hoodie after this. All right, General Secretary or whoever. Chala, fine, yeah.
Yeah, so देखिए पाकिस्तान में it's really not easy to do business in general. और जिन regions हम लोग कर रहे होते हैं, there are geopolitical issues at play, there are border issues at play, there are operational issues at play.
Right.
तो आपको international level पर अगर आप export करें, for example, तो they don't understand our problems के अगर वहाँ पे किसी ने धरना दे दिया, हमारा ट्रक रुक गया, 2 दिन देर हो गई आपकी delivery, they won't understand that. So navigating those problems, I think it has to be through communication. बहुत ही open communication होनी चाहिए. You have to be truthful about it. क्योंकि पाकिस्तानी मशहूर होते हैं इन चीज़ों के लिए, because one thing that we do pride ourselves on is the trust that we have developed between our buyers and sellers. That is our whole business. That is what it depends on.
ठीक.
तो उसके ज़रिए आपको ये problem solve करने operational level पे. Taxation के बहुत से issues होते हैं that you have to come across.
Right.
Policy changes, but you have to navigate around them, and of course, कुछ अच्छी policies भी होती हैं that help you do this.
ठीक.
Things. So
Right.
just having that knowledge and knowing how to do business over here, that is a skill in itself.
Absolutely. I think पाकिस्तान में जब भी किसी businessman से मिलता हूँ तो मैं शायद respect और ज़्यादा करता हूँ, because see, does it feel like that the system works against you at times? ऐसा लगता है ना कि so I mean there will be those moments जहाँ पे you do get demotivated, यार यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं हो सकता.
हर दिन होता है. I won't lie.
Okay.
I won't lie. But देखिए, the core thought process behind entrepreneurship is resilience.
Yeah.
Resilience is, I think, the most important part of starting any business in any part of the world.
True.
आपको बहुत से setbacks मिलेंगे, बहुत ups and downs होंगे. There are waves that you will have to ride for months and maybe even years at a time.
Yeah.
But resilience and never giving up, I know it sounds cliche, but it is one of the most important things that you should practice.
Absolutely. I think resilience is the key trait. And honestly, guys, 2-3 साल जरा मुश्किल होते हैं. Once the things get going, you can appear on Shark Tank as well and get maybe $10.8 million of funding. You never know. So we'll have questions from you as well. See, guys, this is a wonderful opportunity. Thanks to Unilever, that the entrepreneur inside you can ask whatever question that you have. These guys have been there on that side of the table. So I think वो हमारे पास QR code था या क्या सीन है क्वेश्चन का? QR code? QR code लगे हुए हैं behind seats. So if you guys have any questions, please you can start throwing this question as us. वरना मैं सवालात पूछता रहूँगा. Okay? So please help me in my job. So Munir, let's come to you now. अब ये जो organizations बड़ी operate कर रही होती हैं, people multi-billion dollar and multi-rupee billion rupee companies, they in itself themselves they create a sort of an ecosystem, and that ecosystems provide a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities as well. So how do you see Unilever? Plants भी हैं आपकी sourcing भी है, क्या क्या चीजें आप लोग कर रहे होते हैं? Where do you see opportunities for young people like these? These are the niches that you can look at and study the Unilever business model and all. Would you want to say something around that?
Sure. So I think a couple of things. I think when I graduated from LUMS, I think there was a big premium on being the biggest. Multi-billion-dollar organization hai, factories hai, plants hai, distribution hai, and used to be a big source of competitive advantage. And I think no more. I think being biggest, I think, is no guarantee of success. I think it's about being the most agile and being the most fastest. Today, you don't need a factory to be able to actually produce stuff. There are many 3P manufacturers who can produce any product that you want to be able to produce. Today, in order to have access to the market in terms of having an audience, all you need is a smartphone, an Instagram account, a Facebook account, and I think the world is your oyster. Yeah, you don't need big, I think, digital spends on media. And so I think in this new world, I think the premium is going to be on being able to make sure that even our corporate survival is dependent in terms of getting, I think, the best of the best entrepreneurs into the system. And we strive to provide freedom within a framework. I think if you look at my experience, 20 साल एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जो टिके हैं, तो कम ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जो कि 5 मार्केट्स आपको घुमाती हैं, हर जगह का एक डिफरेंट एक्सपोजर मिलता है. कम कंपनीज हैं, आई थिंक, हु टेक अ बेट के, यू नो, आई थिंक व्हेन आई बिकेम हेड ऑफ मार्केटिंग, आई थिंक देयर वाज अ बिग जोक कि यार आपने ना एबीएम किया है, ना ब्रांड मैनेजर किया, ना मार्केटिंग मैनेजर पोजीशन की है, सीधा डायरेक्ट आप हेड ऑफ मार्केटिंग बन गए हैं. बट आई थिंक समटाइम्स आई थिंक ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस टेक अ बेट ऑन यू, एंड आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर यू want to be able to display, I think, that entrepreneurial flourish, to be able to think things differently, do things differently, and work with a lot of startup ecosystems. One thing I didn't mention, we don't do everything in-house. We partner with a lot of startups. I think Fintech being an area I'm very interested in, so maybe we can connect after this. There's a huge unmet need in terms of getting the unbanked retailers into our ecosystem. And that's how I feel that it's not organizations versus startups. Rather, I think it's part of an overall ecosystem that can coexist for the betterment of the country. I think we're stronger together. That's, I think, my personal take.
Great, great. अब जो मैं ये सवाल पूछूंगा, like आपने तो जितने भी entrepreneurs हैं, one of the first things, you've got a brilliant idea, और मैं दोनों हमारे entrepreneur दोस्तों से सवाल ये पूछता हूँ, and Shershah, I'll start with you. Idea बहुत अच्छा है, you've got a wonderful business plan, everything looks rosy. रोकड़ा कहाँ से आएगा? Where will the money come from? Generating funding in Pakistan. Now everyone does not get to appear on Shark Tank. आपको जाना उन्हीं बैंक्स के पास है, जो कि मुझे पता है, being a banker myself, नहीं घास डालते स्टार्टअप्स को, नहीं होता कुछ भी. अपने अंकल के पास जाना पड़ता है, अब्बू के पास जाना पड़ता है. अब्बू वैसे ही लम्स की बहुत सारी फी पे कर चुके हैं, तो अब्बू अब बिजनेस की फी पे नहीं करेंगे. ठीक है. So tell me about this challenge of raising fund. Perfect idea, brilliant idea. पैसे कहाँ से रेज करूंगा?
I think that's a very good question, because I think when we talk to different entrepreneurs, I teach at NIC as well, when you talk to those people, they say that lack of access of funding is actually the biggest reason they fail. I think that's not true, because there's a term that we use that's called bootstrapping. How can you use your own money to build a business? You don't always need to rely on external investors. And a lot of these big corporations that you see, initially they started off, you talk about Apples of the world, eventually they did not have any investors backing them, right? So as long as you have a good problem to solve, I never talk about the idea, I never talk about the solution, because the whole idea of falling in love with the solution that you have built, I think that's false. What you need to fall in love with is the problem. As long as that problem exists, and then there are multiple ways of solving that problem, as long as you can do that, I don't think that initially, in order to get initial customers, you need to rely on any investor. And the reason I say that is, the easiest way of getting initial traction is, just by starting a Google form, just by getting customers to sign up. What happens is, and I've seen a lot of companies do that, I've seen startups spend years building a product, and when they launch it, no one wants to use it. So if you have an idea today, the best way to raise funding, because an investor, unless you have a Mudassir Sheikha like profile, right? You are you founded Kareem, you sold that for the $2-3 billion. Unless you have that profile, what they want to see actually is traction for your business. And traction means how many customers do you have? Are they willing to pay for your product? And the easiest way to do that is, you can, for example, if I've made a solution for students, I have access to 5,000 students on this campus. The easiest way to do is to simply make a Google form and get signups, because what happens is, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? The investors say you need to bring in traction. The startups say that you need to give me money so I can bring in traction. So it's always the traction that needs to come first. And then raising investment is, Ismail is going through that currently, and he would, I think, agree with this. This is actually one of the toughest jobs. This is a full-time job. If I've raised investment from like 20 different investors, I've spoken to more than 1,500 of those. And I'm not kidding, I have a whole list of those investors that I've reached. And these are not the numbers that I've reached out to. I've reached out to a lot more. And these are the 1,500 conversations that I had. Right. One of the downside of being in Pakistan, because not everyone wants to invest in you, right? So this is a full-time job. So I always discourage people, if your business model, it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, अगर मैं उर्दू में बोलूँ, धंधा है तो पैसे बनाने हैं उसने, ठीक है? Any Mayman in this room would agree with me, ठीक है? तो your business, if the unit economics makes sense, if it has positive cash flows, you don't ever need to raise funding. So that's what you should focus on, rather than saying कि investment आएगी, फिर कुछ बनेगा, कुछ बनाओ, investment खुद आ जाएगी if your product and your problem is.
Right. I think I really like the line that you use. You need to fall in love with the problems. And in Pakistan, I think we can fall in love every day. There's so many problems here, but there are so many problems that mean they need solutions. और चले इस्माइल, आपको भी फिर यही फंडिंग के हवाले से बात पूछते हैं जरा.
तो मैं इस प्रॉब्लम वाली चीज़ पे थोड़ा ऐड करूंगा कि इन्होंने कहा कि यू हैव टू फॉल इन लव विद द प्रॉब्लम. तो एक उर्दूई कहावत है कि जिस दौर में जीना मुश्किल है उस दौर में जीना लाजिम है.
बिल्कुल.
तो जितनी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स होगी देयर आर इवन मोर अपॉर्चुनिटीज टू सॉल्व देम. So I think that is what you have to focus on. And you talked about product market fit as well. कि अगर आपको पता ही नहीं है कि आपका प्रोडक्ट कौन खरीदेगा,
right,
then no investor will bet on you.
Right.
और आपने भी बात की, हम लोग को इन्वेस्टमेंट अभी बातचीत चल रही है, but we have 5 to 6 years of experience of being bootstrapped ourselves, putting in our own money, getting to a stage where it is attractive for investors to invest in a positive cash flow company. We've had losses as well. तो देयर इज अ होल जर्नी. लोग आखिरी स्टेप देखते हैं, उसके पीछे जो स्ट्रगल हुई होती है, जो ही मेंशन्ड 1500 प्लस. शार्क टैंक हमारे उसमें बहुत इत्तेफाकन आ गया था. वी weren't intending on going on it. We were talking to about 100 investors at that time, and luckily we were in the right place at the right time. So it's a mixture of perseverance and having that right mindset कि आपको पैसों की जरूरत नहीं है कोई काम शुरू करने के लिए. Start small,
right,
but start surely. So that would be my take.
I think brilliant answer. All right. एक सवाल खास तौर से जो मेरे जहन में इस वक्त आ रहा था और शायद आप लोगों के भी जहन में आ रहा हो. Those of you sitting with wonderful ideas and 1500 से ज़ायद लोगों से you contacted more than 1500 VCs and financiers and all. How do you contact them? ये किधर मिलते हैं? LinkedIn पे जाके सर्च करते हैं? Tell us the process. That's the basic thing.
Yeah, so that's actually a very frequently asked question. क्यों मिलते कहीं?
मिलते
की बातें करते हैं
exactly.
किधर? So when I started KalPay, I had no industry experience, so network नहीं था. So when they say your network is your net worth, that's actually true. So you need to reach out to people, and LinkedIn is generally, although I don't use LinkedIn too much because 80 to 90% of the people posting there, they're just using ChatGPT, and the quality of content on LinkedIn has deteriorated over the past year massively.
सब Facebook बन गए.
Facebook बन गया, और जिस तरह के लोग पोस्ट करते हैं, I know those people personally, and I see they post the kind of stuff that they're saying on LinkedIn. मैं हंसता हूँ यार, ये कैसी बातें कर रहा है इसका. Anyways, LinkedIn is the best tool. So for that, you need to have a very good digital presence. You need to be active on LinkedIn. You need to, a few basics. Have a professional picture there. Any experience that you've had, write about that professionally. I have seen people sending out, commenting with a red heart. Don't do that. It's LinkedIn, it's not Instagram, right? So keep it very professional. And then the best way is to start reaching out to these people over LinkedIn. Most of my investors I've never even met in person. I think 90% of them, I reached out to them directly over LinkedIn. We have an IT services business as well. And most of the clients that we have gotten over the past 2 years, those have been through LinkedIn as well. So LinkedIn, I think, is wholly for all of us professionals, be it a founder or someone working for a corporate. So that's what you do. And secondly, attend events.
Sorry?
Events, IT
events. All right.
There are global conferences. There are a lot of local conferences as well. Those are like really good opportunities for you to meet those people in person, start building your network, and then reaching out. Third thing, follow-ups. What happens is, and this is something that I've seen in every cohort at NIC. You present in front of an investor once, they don't get back to you, and people get disheartened. That's not how it works. You need to keep on following up. बहुत उसकी recent example ये कि one of my investor, he invested in us 8 months after I first spoke to him. और recently कुछ महीने पहले उसकी call है. I was playing cricket at like 11 p.m. at night. He called me and said कि we met 6 months ago in Riyadh. I want to invest in you now. So the only reason was I used to send him an email, an update email every month. At the start of every month, I tell what we did in the previous month at KalPay, and I send that update email. So it's all about follow-ups. They won't get back to you after the first email, not after the second, after the third. You just want to make sure that you either get a meeting or you get a no. So you don't want to be seen zone, and that will happen multiple times. So just keep on following up. Be very regular with it, and there's a fine line between being regular and being annoying as well. ठीक है, so annoy नहीं करना बंदे को, लेकिन you every 2 weeks.
Annoying तो होता है ना, good morning, may the blessing of God be on you.
ये नहीं करना.
Happy Friday, जुमा मुबारक. Such annoying messages.
ये नहीं करना.
नहीं करना.
So frequent follow-ups are these 3 things. They're super.
And if I ask you, आप कैसे approach your business? See, जब भी हम किसी entrepreneurial business की बात करते हैं हमारे जहन में टेक्नोलॉजी आ जाता है, टेक होगा टेक. These guys are pretty non-tech business, honestly speaking. So if you want to need to know more about their business, I've done a detailed podcast with these gentlemen, him and his partner Bilal, and it's a very detailed. उसमें पूरा अपना Startup Pakistan podcast आप जाके वहाँ पे देख सकते हैं. I think it's a very good conversation we had about their business model, Central Asia sourcing, Afghanistan, Taliban क्या करते हैं, किस तरह behave करते हैं and all. It's a very good conversation we had. But funding वाला part, यही सवाल आपको भी इस्माइल.
देखिए, I think he's covered most of those things. मगर this is mostly VCs and international investors. हमें जैसे there are recent initiatives like the SIFC, एक recent initiative है जिसमें I've heard they're doing well. I haven't personally
आपने experience तो नहीं किया ना, इसलिए आप कह रहे हैं. अच्छा.
Okay. तो इस तरह के initiatives Shark Tank recently introduced हुआ है. तो इस तरह की चीज़ों को आपको I was personally very hesitant to sign up for such events क्योंकि I was a bit camera shy as well. तो उसके लिए आपको एक थोड़ा सा step लेना पड़ता है, and of course you have to be willing to attend a lot of events. I would say if you're in Karachi, collabs काफी regularly. They're doing very good talks and very good networking events as well. So attend events like these at NIC as well. So networking is very important for this because आपको cold DM से बहुत कम वो होगा. जैसा उन्होंने कहा, you can take out the percentage 20 over 1500. So just keep at it, and I think eventually you will get some.
So guys, आप अपनी ईगो की तो मौत हो जाती होगी तब तक. मरनी पड़ती है. इतने सारे नोज आते हैं. सोचें आप.
मेरे sorry to cut you, लेकिन मेरे एक्सपीरियंस में ना नो एक दिन ही इकट्ठे आते थे.
अच्छा,
मैं 10 इन्वेस्टर से बात कर रहा हूँ. फॉर सम रीजन मंडे को आया, 6 ने एक साथ नो कर दिया, और उस दिन ईगो क्या बंदा भी मर जाता है. तो you know it's actually very
no day. आपने कैलेंडर में no day लिख दिया.
Yeah. But every no is just one step closer to a yes. तो आप बस जितने no's आते हैं, it's just
every no is a one step closer to a yes. That's a beautiful thought, by the way. So guys, what we have learned, अभी जो ये discussion हुई है और मैंने जरा elaborate इसलिए करवाया. See you. So entrepreneurs here, society, how many of you have got your LinkedIn page there? Raise your hands. Most of you have. Those of you who do not, make your LinkedIn page. Keep it active. अभी हमारे यूनिलीवर के इनके बॉस की बात हो रही थी, उनकी बाकायदा एक LinkedIn strategy है उस बंदे की. And he shares his LinkedIn strategy. Very good friend of mine. So good to have a LinkedIn page. Contact people there. 1500 में से 10 जवाब आ गए तो बहुत जबरदस्त हिट रेट होता है मेरे ख्याल से. And I think जो दूसरा बड़ा important point है, your network is your net worth. Interesting, amazing, well done. People are listening. Well done, शाबाश. Munir, so जरा 20 साल का करियर हो तो एक काम जो आप सीख जाते हैं वो होता है बोलना. हर टॉपिक पे बात इंसान
तो लम्स में सीख जाता है. वो सीपी लगानी होती थी हमें फूल की. So all those BSing skills we were very well honed in those 4 years.
So थोड़ी सी आपकी उन skills को हम यूज करते हैं. But बहरहाल
always up for it.
What are the qualities that you think? I mean, if somebody would ask you, so let's say you were teaching, you teach at LUMS as well, मेरे ख्याल से आप.
नहीं जी, इतनी ऐसा मौका कभी नहीं मिला. पढ़ गए बड़ी बात है.
पढ़ गए बड़ी.
2.9 GPA.
LUMS ने इनको बुलाया नहीं उसके बाद. उन्होंने डाला भी था ये कोर्स पढ़ना नहीं यार. But what are the qualities? I mean, if somebody would ask you, I mean, you let's say your children come to you and say, Baba, I want to become an entrepreneur. I don't want to work like you at some company or something. What are the qualities that you would recommend that you need to develop to become an entrepreneur?
You know, something that Ismail said, I think really resonated with me. ये entrepreneurship की दुनिया में भी है और I think business की दुनिया में भी है, पाकिस्तान में खास तौर पे. And that's the theme of resilience. मजे की बात है, use the word resilience. We actually created a resilience squad 2023 के अंदर. It's a very, very difficult business environment. Very, very volatile, very uncertain. Politically, economically, socially. और चीज़ें आसान नहीं होने वाली आगे. And I think my one advice to, I think, every aspiring entrepreneur would be, always think worst case. Be a pessimist. Yeah? And be a pessimist का मतलब ये नहीं कि इंसान मर जाए डिप्रेशन के मारे. Pessimist का मतलब ये है कि nothing that happens, I think, should surprise you. And I think you're prepared for every eventuality. हमारे अपने बिजनेस में लास्ट ईयर जब हालात अच्छे नहीं थे, we were actually workshopping कि यार अगर हमारी इंटरनेट आउट हो गया पूरे कंट्री के अंदर, हमारा पूरा सैप सिस्टम, प्रोडक्शन सिस्टम, सप्लाई सिस्टम इज इंटरनेट डिपेंडेंट, हाउ विल वी ऑपरेट? एंड वी डिड अ ड्रिल कि यार सारी चीजें कागज और पेन के थ्रू हम 200 अरब का बिजनेस सस्टेन करेंगे. एक ऐसा स्क्वाड बना था कि अगर मुल्क में पेट्रोल बंद हो गया, फ्यूल खत्म हो गया, हाउ विल वी मेंटेन continuity of supply? And I don't want to go into the discussions that led to, because I think we'll have bigger problems if I think we run out of fuel in the country. But I think अगर इस country में survive करना है and thrive करना है, and I do believe that if you're in it for the long term, if you're planning for the marathon, not a 100-meter sprint, this country offers great potential and great opportunity. Yeah. But I think what you've got to do is, I think, be resilient and be battle hardened and make sure that whatever life throws at you, कोई भी curved ball आए, उसके लिए इंसान ready रहे कि यार ये तो आएगी, bouncer पड़ेगा, but इसको मैंने खेलना है ऐसे. And every time you go down, you always try and come up. So I think it applies equally to any corporate or, I think credit to both of you. I think more power to you for, I think, operating in this environment and making things work.
Absolutely. I think Pakistan में just हम already बात कर चुके हैं. It's not easy. So I've got some questions here, or we have got like questions for everyone. Munir, आप बात कर रहे थे. It's even though I know the topic is entrepreneurship, but it is about Unilever, and you have headed marketing there as well. So somebody from the Gen Z, anyone from Gen Z here? Everyone is Gen Z. Oh, of course, yeah. All of them are Gen Z. Okay. So some Gen Z.
Millennial तो कोई नहीं होगा ना यहाँ पे.
Gen X है कोई यहाँ पे? नहीं. Okay. Gen X बैठे हुए हैं ना. वो पता है हाथ उठाए डॉक्टर साहब हाथ ही नहीं उठा रहे अपना. Anyway, what attempts has Unilever made to promote their everyday products to Gen Z?
Look, I think two things that we're trying to do. बहुत अच्छा सवाल है. And I think दुनिया social first का है. अगर 10 साल पहले मैं पोल करा था कि यार कितने लोगों ने, बल्कि अभी पोल कर लेते हैं. How many people have I think ordered in the past 1 month on a social media platform? Raise your hands. It's like 90% of the people have raised their hands. And I think that's where the disruption is coming from. It's no longer enough to be a big recognized brand, because I think in the world of social first, I think you can order anything from the comfort of your smartphone. Yeah. And from that perspective, we've got several of our competitors who don't have a single distributor in the country, yeah, who don't basically, I think, market on traditional media, but multi-billion rupee brands built kar diye only on social. And so I think our approach has been, I think, to bring us a slew of brands, I think, who really appeal to, I think, the Gen Z audience. And I think I can give you a couple of examples maybe. I think hair care ke andar, I don't know if you guys are aware, but I think jo Dove, Tresemme, I think naye, I think mixes hum lekar aaye hain. Very Gen Z oriented marketing and I think propositions, I think, which are doing really, really well. And if I share the growth trajectory, I think we've had a lot of success. हमारे फूड बिजनेस के अंदर हम पिछले 20 साल से चटपटा नूडल बेचा करते थे. अब पिछले साल सारी गेम हो रही है कोरियन की. So we got influences into our design garage कि भी बताओ कि यार ये जेनजीज क्या कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं, क्या खा रहे हैं, हम तो डायनासोर हैं, हमें तो नहीं पता. जेनजीज को ही बुला लिया. या उन्होंने कहा भाई ये अच्छा है. अब हमने कहा, मैंने खाया, मैंने कहा तो कभी मर के ना खाऊं. It is so chilly, but Gen Z, they are next level. So I think the importance is about, I think, falling in love with the problem. But I think in our world, it's about falling in love with the consumer. Really, I think, have a really intimate pulse in terms of, I think, what the consumer is looking for. And make sure that you actually co-create mixes with them. An entire floor in our office is actually called the Design Garage, which is devoted to bringing those consumers in, experimenting and co-creating products. अच्छा ये कैसा है, ये कैसा है, ये कैसा है, ये कैसा है. And you do that polling, figuring out, enough, I think, people coming in, creating a product, limited launch, test it. If it fails, pivot and move on. Yeah. So I think that's the approach that we are moving towards, because that's the only way to survive.
And people get to eat food for free.
Oh yeah, that's the best perk of being in Unilever.
As well. You get Unilever food for free. Try their new flavors. Knorr noodles ka kaun sa flavor aaya. Chale ji, great. Smile. Question from the audience. Beside communication, how do you overcome the logistical and supply chain issues in Pakistan?
That's a good question. I think it's an everyday challenge, because you have to be very agile, as Munir mentioned as well, in terms of solving these problems. You have to think on your feet. Mm-hmm. You have to be very creative with these solutions as well. So I'll give you an example. The one thing that happened with us was that we were importing from a region, and a lot of that cost is related to transportation. So when oil prices increase, the contract that you signed, it goes into a loss. So we suffered that loss. Mm-hmm. We learned from it, and next time we just hedged our price to the fuel prices of the country at that time. Right. So I think you have to be very, you have to have the stomach to bear these problems, but also you have to be creative enough to find solutions to them as well.
Absolutely. The problems have the solution. Shershah, so मैं बिल्कुल उसको one पढ़ लेता हूँ जो सवाल आया, थोड़ा लंबा सवाल है. You mentioned there is a huge gap in the fintech space in Pakistan. With the new startups emerging like KalPay itself, How do you see the customer journeys changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. Full marks for the CP, जिसको हम double CP भी कहते थे अपने time में. So I think the issue with Pakistan, or rather the potential over here is कि हमने अभी bare minimum in terms of digital adoption ही नहीं किया. So we are basically just at, I would say, layer 1, which essentially is कि how can we digitize a lot of these processes. अभी हम AI तक नहीं पहुँचे, and I think it's going to take us a lot of time because I was exhibiting in Korea recently, और वहाँ पे जिस तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी आप देखते हैं फिनटेक्स, so they are way ahead of us. हमारा इशू ये है कि अभी भी बैंक में जाके अकाउंट क्यों खुलवाना पड़ता है. I'll quote an example. We have 3 corporate accounts for our business. I've been trying to open the 4th one at a particular bank. I won't take the name because this is being recorded. लेकिन 4 हफ्ते हो गए अभी तक मेरा बैंक अकाउंट नहीं खुला. I went there myself. My team has been there thrice. There are still multiple issues. So the consumer journey initially needs to have multiple digital touch points. Right. We need to eliminate cash, number 1. Now for an emerging country like Pakistan, that's not just a private sector issue, that's an infrastructure problem as well. So the government and the government needs to step in, and they need to build policies around these things, ensuring that we eliminate cash, because I think people from Unilever would agree that most of these transactions with distributors or those Kiryana owners, they are still happening over cash, and there's no digitization over there. Then again, taxation issues and black money and all of that. So it's not just a private sector issue, it's an infrastructure issue as well. For example, the minute I step out of these bigger towns and cities in Pakistan, 4G की penetration अभी उतनी नहीं है. So अगर 4G नहीं है, so I can't access my mobile banking application. If I can't do that, then of course for adoption नहीं होगी. So in terms of the consumer journey changing over the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to be all about digitizing it, and then we'll start talking about how we can use AI and all of that to improve the customer journeys.
Excellent. शेरशाह, आप ही के पास एक सवाल आया है. मैं उन सवाल पर जाने से पहले मुझे आप लोगों के सवालात सुनते हुए, बिकॉज यार ये जो हमारे नौजवान यहाँ पे, you guys are studying at LUMS and all, how do you think to start as an entrepreneur, what is being taught at LUMS, IBA, NUST, whatever, how much does it help in I would say waking up the entrepreneur? Does it equip you to be an entrepreneur, the education that you get?
Contrary to the popular belief, क्योंकि वो कहते हैं कि SDSB से सारे corporate slaves निकलते हैं. That's what people across Pakistan
guilty as charged.
Yeah, spending 20 years in one company. लेकिन see a few things. LUMS helps you in learning communication skills. I think वो mandatory है. जो हम CP की बात की, he's talking about being camera shy. I had the most severe stage fright. मैं यहाँ पर आज बैठा हूँ, मैं LUMS जब शुरू किया था, and I kid you not, I could not sleep 2 to 3 days before my presentation. मुझसे नहीं स्टेज पे आया जाए, वो भी छोटी सी क्लास होती थी. So communication number 1. I think the best thing about LUMS is you are exposed to some business courses as well. तो वहाँ पे business acumen हर बच्चे का थोड़ा सा बेहतर होता है. So what something that I see when I talk to these people or LUMS graduates says कि इनका business acumen एक normal graduate किसी और university के उससे बेहतर है. LUMS, NUST, IBA, they all encourage that. और I think the kind of जो तीसरी चीज़ है, that's not the classroom, but the kind of environment LUMS gives you, because you're interacting with people from different backgrounds, from different ethnicities. वो एक अलग बात है कि हम थोड़े से groupings करते हैं, कराची वालों के साथ रहते हैं, अब्दालियंस के साथ रहते हैं.
ये LUMS में है?
होता है, बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. कराची वालों का है कोई प्रॉब्लम. No offense to you guys, मैं आधा कराची से.
How many from Karachi here, by the way?
I'm partially from Karachi, so guys, no offense.
ये partially वाले को हम बाद में करेंगे, ठीक है? हम कराची से आए हैं, बाकी तो नहीं, ठीक है.
So वो जो interaction है लोगों के साथ, क्योंकि socio-economic status भी different है, that's where you learn a lot. क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो environment है, जो societies and events होते हैं, that's what actually sets LUMS apart from other campuses.
Excellent. भाई वो आप ये 20 years की इन्होंने बात की, इत्तेफाक से मुनीर ये सवाल भी आया, but even though not related to our topic, but what motivated you to stay at Unilever for 20 years?
Yeah, guys, I think what makes you stick in 20 years is, I think, diversity of experience. Because I think बंदा बोर नहीं होना चाहिए एक नौकरी के अंदर. So long as I think you're growing, I think as a professional, as an individual, in terms of I think your capability, in terms of I think experience, I think you stay engaged. And career मेरा start हुआ पाकिस्तान से, उसके बाद कंपनी ने कहा भाई modern trade के लिए एक evolved market भेजो, तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया भेज दिया. Which was I think a fantastic stint. It's a very, very different landscape. Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's absolutely brilliant. उसके बाद I think got to spend some time in Thailand. How the food is absolutely fantastic. उसके बाद एक global role करना जहाँ पे I think you're working with multi-billion-dollar companies. I think in the context of Singapore, Tesco, Walmart, बड़े companies हैं, and I think you get to work with people who are so much more smarter than you that you get inspired. और आप कहते हैं कि यार हर दिन बंदा सीख रहा है. You're growing as a person. And then coming back to Pakistan, then going to the global headquarters, being able to work with the topmost senior executives of Unilever, and that gives you a great high. And then I think what brought me back from the Netherlands was Amir called me and he said कि यार पाकिस्तान में नौकरी है मार्केटिंग की. मैंने कहा तो हार्वर्ड MBA से ज़रा बड़ा प्रीमियम होगा. जिंदगी में मार्केटिंग नहीं की, मार्केटिंग हेड बना दिया, होम केयर का, फिर फूड दे दिया, आइसक्रीम दे दिया. So there's not been a dull moment, and I think so long as I think that variety of experience, which I think an only MNC can provide, it keeps you so engaged. So I think that's number one. दूसरा sticky point होता है culture. I think in Unilever, I think you will find people, very few a-holes, so to speak. I think ज़्यादातर लोग अच्छे हैं. Great value system, very collaborative, very engaging. It almost becomes part of a family. And I think so long as I think the people front is sorted, and professionally, I think you're getting that intellectual stimulation to be able to grow. I think you stay engaged. हाँ, मेरे कुछ colleagues हैं who say that the best experience they had with Unilever was, I think, getting that experience and then using it as a launching pad to start their own startup. And I think that experience of real life can sometimes really give you an edge in terms of, I think, starting your own startup venture and doing very well. And right now in my team, there are quite a few, I think, GenZs, yeah? And I think उनको जो high मिलता है, वो Unilever में नौकरी by day है. But then I think you also have the flexibility to have a side hustle. मेरा agriculture का side hustle है. And I'm not going to give that up because I think I'm able to make that work.
मैं यही पूछने वाला था कि आपके अंदर भी कोई entrepreneur पल रहा है कहीं?
बिल्कुल पल रहा है.
And agriculture related है वो?
बिल्कुल.
And why agriculture just in case?
यार, so I think my dad has been into agriculture for 50 years. I think mango के orchards हैं हमारे. And I think वो normally system ये होता था कि
उस पर DHA नहीं बना अभी तक?
नहीं, agriculture का करेंगे, पहुंचेंगे वहाँ पे. Problem ये है agriculture के अंदर यहाँ पे कि it's the most inefficient, I think, underappreciated sector in the country. The lowest yield per acre, Pakistan. Yeah, a lot of statistics to prove that. And I think from the farmer to the consumer, 7 से 8 middlemen होते हैं. Yeah, and in this new age, I think all we started to do was, I think, A, create our own brand, and B, cut out the middleman. And I think जो value unlock आया हमें वो 15x का मिला. So per ton of mango, a 15x value unlock just by, I think, creating that brand, creating that consumer base, and making sure you can market that directly. So I think, in short, I think coming to an MNC doesn't mean that you give up on your entrepreneurship dreams. It can be a great launchpad to experience within the company through a side hustle or as a launchpad for, I think, a future initiative.
Do you send mangoes for sampling as well? You want to try?
करेंगे सर आपको.
But thank you sir. मैं आपको एड्रेस अपना भेज देता हूँ. ठीक है जी. Smile, there's a question for you. As an entrepreneur, बड़ा ChatGPT किस्म का सवाल लगा भाई. As an entrepreneur, persistence is an essential required quality. But is it also important to recognize when it might be the time to pivot? In your experience, how do you strike the balance between persistence and stepping back?
अच्छा ChatGPT पे
अब ChatGPT इस जवाब भी वहीं से निकलवाते हैं. ठीक है.
But नहीं, अच्छा सवाल है because constantly with the changing landscape, agility की बात की, उसमें आपको constantly change करना पड़ता है.
ठीक.
In our case, we constantly change from different commodities we're focusing on to ones that we see potential in. So I would say अभी food shortages बहुत हो रही हैं, उसमें बहुत potential है.
Right.
So if anyone wants to start their agriculture is one of those as well.
Right.
So it's about recognizing those opportunities through those geopolitical issues that are going on. You have to take them as opportunities as well rather than just problems. And you have to find the best time to make that jump into the next venture or pivoting at the right time.
अच्छा ये बताएं कि आजकल के बल्कि जो entrepreneurs हैं वो कहा ये जाता है ना कि जितने भी startups होते हैं, for them the holy grail is listing the company into the stock market and just getting out of the business. So क्या सराफ के जहन में भी ये evil thought आती है, business को इतना बड़ा करो, बेच के निकल जाओ, करोड़पति बन जाओ, मुदस्सिर शेखा.
काश पाकिस्तान ये environment provide करता कि आप पिछले मेरे ख्याल से कितने साल हो गए, I think you're in avid investor as well.
Yeah.
कि IPO नहीं हुआ है कोई.
हाँ, IPO
तो
कम हो रहा है.
इंडिया में पता नहीं कितने हो चुके हैं. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. So we're a long way from that.
मैं कोई सेठ खरीद तो सकता है ना कंपनी.
आराम से.
मुनीर सेठ. He can buy.
छोटा मुलाजिम है.
नहीं आराम से.
Right.
People have that buying power, but obviously unregularized economy है. बहुत सारी चीजें अभी होना बाकी है for us to reach that stage. But I think they are making some good strides. The recent GEM board introduction for greenfield companies is very good.
Right.
I think अगले एक आध साल में हमें शायद दिखने को आए का IPO.
Okay, that is great. जबरदस्त यार. Good luck to you. अच्छा भाई, शेरशाह आपसे सवाल है फिनटेक के हवाले से. Fintech is a lot about transforming customer experience, which includes the financial journey. What then is the best strategy to design a revenue generating model for a fintech idea?
That's is that ChatGPT again? You think?
It looks like. I think this is
Plagiarism
Gemini.
check होना चाहिए, probably.
Alright.
I think that's actually where most or a lot of fintechs struggle. Even अगर हम पाकिस्तान के context में बात करें, we hear a few big names. The biggest challenge for them was how do they monetize that, which is eventually why you see a lot of them end up doing lending. Lending generally, according to me, at least for an emerging market like Pakistan, is the only business case which makes you money. It's risky. Payments ka issue here. When you talk about fintech is a huge industry in itself. You know, you're talking about payments, you're talking about insurtech, you're talking about lending, और फिर lending के अंदर भी it's a vast domain in itself. So challenge वहाँ पे monetization का आता है because payments need a very big scale. Because if you're making like 0 point something %, that's what SadaPay did, right? Or that's how SadaPay makes money. They make 0 point something % on every transaction. Now for you to make 10 million rupees, you need to have a transactional volume of like 10, 20, 30 billion rupees for that to make sense. So वहाँ पे scale बहुत बड़ा. Yes, we see a lot of global companies that have done like PayPal, etc. They've done brilliantly, but that's because they have been able to monetize that in US dollars. So I think monetization will continue to be a struggle. We have seen a lot of fintechs close down because of that. As long as you have a good value proposition, so that's what I believe, you can always charge your customer for that. और हर customer के नज़दीक वो जो price होती है आपकी service की वो बड़ी variable वो बहुत vary करती है. For example, I always tell this कि what if WhatsApp started charging 500 rupees every month? Most of us here would pay 5,000 a month, 50% probably. 15,000 a month, 5% probably, right? And then there will be an alternative, जो free of cost आपको वो service देगा and you'll shift. So there's no customer loyalty. So as long as you're able to build that value proposition, you'll be able to monetize that. Otherwise, the customer will be so quick to shift. We saw that happen with Uber in Pakistan. We saw that happen with Uber Left. We saw that happen with Careem. Careem is the third, is on number 3 now in terms of ride-sharing application. InDrive and Yango are much bigger than that now because there's no customer loyalty. So you need to be very clear about how you monetize your business from day one. Otherwise, it will kill your startup, and it has killed a lot of startups like Airlift, etc.
Great. Good answer. Good answer. Excellent. Okay, Ismail, in terms of the practicality of market research, for us as students, how can we conduct market research while in the possession of only a laptop and internet in the start?
Right, that's a good question because I think Shershah gave a very good example. All you need is a Google form and a LinkedIn profile, an Instagram account, and you can reach out to a lot of people. So it's about finding creative ways to do it without spending money, to get a bigger reach. Ask your friends, ask your families. People will give you answers, and be persistent in that regard as well. Don't be afraid of hearing no's, and just keep at it.
Yeah, so true. I think SadaPay, right, when it was at a very... How many of you have got SadaPay wallet, by the way? A lot of you. So, जब ये अपनी infancy stage में थे, so I was heading the consumer business at TCS, and they came to me and all, and they were totally doing their researches through internees and at various universities, and they were so specific about targeting young people, and it does appear that बहुत सस्ती रिसर्च थी उनकी. हम जब पैसे बताते थे कि मार्केट रिसर्च करवाएंगे तो कितने लाखों में होती है, they said हम कुछ हजार रुपए इंटर्नीज को देते हैं, and they have done all these research and they develop product for you guys, and I think that hit the bullseye. SadaPay is a wonderful case study, by the way. Okay जी, और हमारे पास क्या सवाल हैं? I think we are heading towards some last couple of questions, maybe. Shershah, हाँ, being a serial entrepreneur, how important do you think your previous entrepreneurial experiences were for your success at KalPay?
I think those were completely different. वो venture back companies नहीं थी, marketing agency, then there was a e-commerce store. But they taught me a lot in terms of interacting with customers, interacting with vendors. So I think that's the key whenever you're building a business. तो वो जो experience होता है, how do you deal with different situations? Like you said, e-commerce के बहुत ज़्यादा challenges हैं, returns आते हैं, cash on delivery के issues आते हैं, time पे deliveries नहीं है, बाद से आपको खुद गाड़ी में जाके delivery करनी पड़ती है. So all of those smaller instances, eventually in hindsight, when you look at those things happening over a few years, there's a lot to learn from them. So I think I did benefit from them a lot. Would I do it again during my time at LUMS? Probably not. क्योंकि मुझे बहुत significant edge नहीं मिला when I was starting KalPay. Yes, I can call myself a serial entrepreneur, 4 companies, etc. But then again, balancing out work and personal life, probably not recommended.
Right. So we've got our last question of the day, Munir. That's a question for you. How to navigate the world of labor-intensive business in a volatile work and oblique political environment, and how to navigate the shift towards gradual automation. So take us through the Unilever story there, because automation is coming and stuff and all. So how do you navigate this labor-intensive business that you are in?
So I think, our journey over the past 3 years alone, I think the amount of automation that we've seen in the factories, it's pretty scary. And I'm not going to go into the numbers. And this is before, the age of AI. I think मुझे डर है मेरी नौकरी redundant ना हो जाए, by the way. मुझे भी AI prompter बनना पड़ेगा $5 लाख कमाने के लिए. But बहुत सारे agencies का काम है, which right now AI can do a much better job in terms of creating the right briefs to be able to create an ad from scratch. सही brief दें. I think the capabilities that exist today that will be able to make all your marketing agencies redundant. Maybe I'm speaking a bit too much, and there are no such plans in Pakistan, but maybe there are. But the reality is, I think, as we move forward, I think it's critical to be ahead of the game in terms of adopting those technologies rather than shying away from them. There will be plenty of jobs. I think the scope of those jobs are basically going to be changing. So, naukriyan nahi jaane wali. It's just making sure that you make yourself conversant fully with, I think, the ever-changing technological landscape. Because if I pass my 20-year career, I think 19 saal ek taraf, pichla 1 saal ek taraf. And I think this change is only going to get more and more accelerated. So I think if there's an impression that aapki big companies are going to continue to remain labor-intensive, I think not anymore. I think you need that right skill set and that upgradation to continue to remain relevant. I think that should be the one theme. How do we stay relevant in an ever-changing environment? That's a question that applies to you. It's a question that applies to me more, which I ask myself every day. If I'm not learning something new every day, I think pretty soon I'm going to be redundant, and there'll be, I think, a new, younger person sitting in my seat who will do a much better job than me.
Or maybe a robot.
Potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. But the good thing about Munir is that mango farming is not going to be replaced by AI.
People love mangoes, yes.
But great. Thank you so much, guys. You were a wonderful audience. I think it was a great discussion. Thank you so much, Ismail, Munir, and thank you, Shershah, and thank you, LUMS, thank you, Unilever, for having us. And good luck to you all. These gentlemen are here. इनको घेर लें, जो सवाल पूछना है इनसे आप पूछते रहें, इनको हम अभी जाने नहीं देंगे हम, but this discussion is officially closed. Thank you once again.
Thank you.